Napoleon Hill spent 20 years in the most intimate possible proximity to both groups of people. He spent time with the extraordinary achievers, Carnegie, Edison, Ford, Rockefeller, and the hundreds of others whose financial lives represented the most extraordinary outcomes available for study. And he spent time inevitably with the people who never built what they were capable of building. The intelligent, capable, genuinely motivated people who had the talent and the commitment and the access to the same philosophy and who remained across the years of Hill's observation in the financial position they had occupied when he first encountered them. He noticed the differences between the two groups across dozens of dimensions: the organizational habits, the daily practices, the quality of their relationships, the specific form of their persistence through adversity. He documented all of it. But the most immediately noticeable, the most consistently present, and in some ways the most surprising difference, because it was so small and so ordinary and so easily dismissed as coincidence, was this: the way they talked. Not their vocabulary, not their eloquence or their confidence or their formal command of language. The specific, daily, habitual phrases, the sentences that arrived automatically without deliberation in response to the ordinary situations that both groups encountered, were systematically, consistently, measurably different between the people who built extraordinary financial lives and the people who did not. This video is about 4 of those phrases. 4 specific sentences that Hill documented as present in the daily speech of virtually every person who remained poor despite genuine capability and genuine desire for something different. 4 phrases that, in their apparent innocuousness, are doing something specific and costly to the brain that habitually produces them something measurable, neurologically real, and entirely reversible the moment the phrase is replaced with its more accurate equivalent. You have said all 4 of them, possibly today. The question this video is asking is not whether you have said them, you have. It is whether you understand what they are doing to the neural architecture that determines what you notice, what you pursue, and what you ultimately build. Before naming the 4 phrases, the mechanism that makes them consequential rather than merely negative, because the mechanism is what makes this video practically useful rather than simply another account of the importance of positive thinking. The brain does not primarily learn from instruction, it learns from repetition. The specific, daily, habitually produced, consistently occurring stimulus that the nervous system encounters repeatedly is the stimulus that the brain's encoding processes treat as significant, permanent, and directionally relevant. This is the Hebbian principle: neurons that fire together, wire together, applied to language. The phrase spoken once is a single neural firing that produces a single, minimally strengthened connection between the concepts the phrase links. The phrase spoken daily, across weeks and months and years of the habitual response, is the accumulated, compound, strengthened, increasingly automatic neural pathway whose activation eventually requires less deliberate initiation and occurs with the speed and automaticity of the fully installed habit. The brain that has habitually, daily, automatically produced the phrase, "I can't afford it," in response to financial opportunity, has spent months or years strengthening the specific neural connection between the concept of financial opportunity and the concept of personal incapacity training in the most literal neurological sense, the automatic response of incapacity to the arrival of the opportunity. This is not metaphor. This is Hebbian learning applied to the language of the daily internal and external monologue. The phrases you habitually speak are the phrases whose neural connections you are daily, compound mathematically strengthening. And the neural connections you compound strengthen are the automatic responses you produce, the perceptions, the decisions, the behaviors when the triggering situation arrives. He'll observe the behavioral consequences of these compound strengthened connections in the specific capability, present, outcome absent quality of the capable person who remained poor. He did not have the Hebbian vocabulary for what he was observing. But the pattern was as clear to the 20-year empiricist as the mechanism is to the contemporary neuroscientist. Change the phrases, change the neural connections, change the automatic responses, change the outcome. 4 phrases, 4 replacements. Starting today, the first phrase, I can't afford it. This is the most common, the most automatically produced, and the most neurologically consequential of the 4 phrases. And it is consequential in a way that its apparent accuracy makes it most difficult to recognize as the problem it is. In many specific instances, the phrase is literally true. The thing under consideration exceeds the current financial resources available for its acquisition. The accurate, real-world description of the current financial position is that the thing cannot presently be purchased. The phrase is factually correct. It is also, in its habitual deployment, the specific, daily, RAS calibrating instruction to the brain's attention filtering system to deprioritize information about how the thing could be made possible in favor of the comfortable confirmation of its current impossibility. The reticular activating system, which this channel has documented extensively throughout its body of work, is calibrated by the dominant questions and concerns in the mind's current operating system. The mind that habitually produces, I can't afford it, is providing its RAS with a specific resource scarcity. This is not available to me instruction that calibrates the attention filter away from the creative, opportunity recognizing, how could this be possible quality of the engaged, direction, organized mind. The phrase closes the question before the brain has had the opportunity to engage with it. Not because the question is unanswerable, but because the habitual phrase has trained the automatic response to be the closure rather than the inquiry. Hill documented this with the specific, across 500 lives confirmed observation that the most extraordinary financial achievers did not habitually produce this phrase, not because they were never in financial positions where the thing under consideration exceeded current resources, but because their automatic response to the gap was the inquiry rather than the closure. The question Carnegie asked when something he wanted was beyond current resources was not, I can't afford it. It was the specific, organized, how do I make this possible quality of the burning desire backed, organized, planning, producing, creative, solution-seeking response that the inquiry generates and that the closure forecloses. The replacement phrase is not the denial of the financial reality. It is the specific question opening, RAS recalibrating, inquiry initiating replacement. How can I afford it? Or what would need to be true for this to be possible? These phrases are not affirmations of the thing's current availability. They are instructions to the RAS to engage with the question rather than close it, to filter toward the information that the inquiry requires rather than filtering away from it in the comfortable confirmation of the current impossibility. The phrase changes. The neural connection changes, the RAS calibration changes, the information that crosses the threshold of conscious awareness changes, the available options change, the outcome changes. Not immediately. Compound. The same compound mathematics that built Carnegie's empire. The second phrase, I'll do it when I'm ready. This phrase is the most intelligently disguised of the 4 and the most expensive in the specific compound mathematics forfeiting sense of the time it consumes without advancing the trajectory. Its disguise is the specific, reasonable sounding, genuinely virtue-adjacent quality of preparation. The person who says, I'll do it when I'm ready, is not procrastinating in the obviously avoidant sense. They are preparing. They are being responsible about the quality of the beginning. They are honoring the genuine complexity of the thing being considered by refusing to begin it before they are properly equipped. This sounds like wisdom. In a narrow range of genuinely preparation requiring activities, the surgeon who is completing medical school before operating, the pilot who is completing flight training before flying, it is wisdom. For the overwhelming majority of the goals the phrase is applied to in the context of building the extraordinary financial life, it is the poverty fear's most eloquent defense mechanism. And Hill was specific about this. The most consistent, the most universal, the most expensively forfeited quality of the capable person who remained financially ordinary was the deferral of the beginning of the genuine direction's pursuit until the specific, perpetually receding, never quite arrived condition of readiness had been achieved. The readiness never arrives, not because the person fails to prepare. In many cases, they prepare extensively for years, because the specific, authentic, beginning, compound mathematics initiating quality of readiness is not produced by preparation. It is produced by the beginning. The beginning produces the readiness that the preparation was searching for without being able to manufacture. Gollwitzer's implementation intention research the finding that the specific, contextually anchored, when this situation occurs, I do this commitment produces more reliable behavioral follow-through than the vague intention to act when conditions are appropriate is the specific experimental confirmation of what Hill's research observed across 500 lives. The person who commits to beginning at a specific time in a specific context with the specific implementation intention quality of the committed rather than the perpetually preparing begins. The person who waits for readiness waits. The replacement phrase is the specific beginning, committing, readiness forfeiting honesty of the person who understands what readiness actually is. I'll begin before I'm ready, or even more specifically, I will begin this at this specific time in this specific context, whether or not I feel ready. The phrase changes from the deferral to the commitment. The neural connection changes from the delay to the initiation. The compound begins. The third phrase, that's just not for me. This is the most self-limiting of the four phrases, and the one whose subconscious installation produces the most expensive RAS miscalibration available in the ordinary language of the financially ordinary life. The phrase presents itself as self-knowledge, as the honest, accurate, I know myself quality of the person who has a clear sense of their own limitations and is being appropriately modest about what is possible for them. In some cases, it is self-knowledge. The person who genuinely, source-auditedly, burning desire honestly recognizes that a specific direction is not theirs, that the direction doesn't survive the approval-seeking stripped examination, that it doesn't produce the genuine emotional engagement that the authentic direction produces, is demonstrating the accurate thinking quality that this channel has consistently identified as the prerequisite for the genuine, definite chief aims formulation. But the phrase is rarely deployed in this genuinely self-knowing sense. It is most commonly deployed in response to specific high return, requires genuine commitment opportunities or directions whose primary quality, it is not the honest self-knowledge it presents itself as. It is the looking glass self's most efficient boundary drawing mechanism. Hill documented the specific RAS closing quality of this phrase in the Across the 500 Lives pattern. The people who remained financially ordinary had, in most cases, deployed this phrase or its equivalents in response to at least one specific opportunity or direction that a more accurate, less fear-organized assessment would have recognized as genuinely theirs. The critical question this phrase requires, is it not for me because the honest, source-audited, approval-seeking stripped examination reveals it as genuinely misaligned? Or is it not for me because the approach avoidance conflict of the fear-organized brain is producing the boundary drawing, language that protection from the discomfort of engagement requires? The replacement is not the forced enthusiasm of everything is possible for me. It is the specific, inquiry opening, accurate thinking quality of the honest question. Is this actually not for me? Or am I afraid of what engaging with it would reveal about what I'm capable of and haven't been willing to pursue? The question opens what the phrase closes. The RAS responds to the open question by filtering toward the relevant information. The closed phrase filters away from it before the relevant information can arrive. The fourth phrase, it must be nice. This phrase is the one Hill documented as the most reliably present in the daily speech of the people who were most genuinely capable of building the extraordinary life and had not built it, and whose non-building was most directly attributable to the specific compound installed. This is the relationship I have with others, achievement quality of what the phrase installs. It must be nice is the specific linguistic expression of the upward social comparison that Leon Festinger's social comparison theory describes the specific other person's achievement as the standard for my evaluation quality of the comparison that produces resentment rather than instruction, distance rather than study, and the specific their success diminishes me quality of the zero-sum relationship with others' extraordinary outcomes. The research on upward social comparison and motivation is specific and practical. Upward comparison that produces the "this shows me what I lack" interpretation consistently reduces subsequent motivated effort, while upward comparison that produces the "this shows me what is possible and how they did it" interpretation consistently increases it. The phrase "it must be nice" is the specific, automatic, habitual trigger of the first interpretation, the "this shows me what I lack" quality of the comparison that cements the distance between the person observing and the person achieving, rather than providing the specific, method extractable. This is how it was built information that the genuine student of the extraordinary life would extract from the same observation. Hill's specific observation. Every one of the most extraordinary achievers he studied was a student of other achievers, not a resentful observer, but a specific, what did they shew and how and what can I learn quality of engaged student. The burning desire to understand the method behind the outcome rather than to register the emotional distance between the current position and the observed one was the specific, always present quality of the most extraordinary achiever's relationship with others' financial success. It must be nice installs the resentment. The resentment closes the study. The closed study forecloses the learning. The forfeited learning forecloses the replications. The replacement is not the performed enthusiasm of someone pretending to feel no competitive jealousy. It is the honest, method-focused, what can I learn quality of the specific question, what did they do to produce this, and what is the most applicable part of that method to my own current building? 4 words becoming one question. The comparison producing instruction rather than resentment. The neural connection changing from the distance cementing to the method extracting. The specific, immediately executable practice this video asks for is the phrase, audit the honest. 1 week, this is what I actually say in these situations. Tracking of how frequently each of the 4 phrases arrives in the daily speech and internal monologue. Not the assessment of whether you believe them, the tracking of whether you say them. Because the brain does not primarily care whether you believe what you say. It compounds what you repeatedly fire. For each of the 4 phrases, write the replacement, not as the permanent, already installed quality of someone who has completed the correction, as the specific, tomorrow morning beginning quality of the deliberate, this is what I now say instead commitment. I can't afford it becomes, how can I make this possible? I'll do it when I'm ready becomes, I'll begin before I'm ready. That's just not for me. Becomes, is this genuinely not mine? Or am I afraid to find out? It must be nice becomes, what did they do? And what can I learn from it? The replacements are not affirmations. They are instruction specific, inquiry opening, RAS recalibrating instructions to the brain's attention filtering system to engage rather than close, to pursue rather than defer, to study rather than resent, to open rather than protect. 20 years of research across 500 extraordinary lives. One of the most consistent findings, 4 phrases. Leave in the comments which of the 4 you recognize as the most frequently present in your own daily speech. Not the most dramatic, the most frequent. The most frequent is the most compounded. The most compounded is the most expensive. The most expensive is the most worth changing. Starting today,